Grandpa Dennis is turning.
I'm alright, cause I'm okay. Doesn't matter if my beard is gray. Just listen, I have something to say.
Grandpa Dennis is turning.
I'm alright, cause I'm okay. And this old goat has something to say. So just keep learning from Grandpa Dennis's turning. Hello, I'm Dennis Pravensky, and welcome to Grandpa Dennis's wood turning studio. Today, the project is going to be pepper mills and salt mills. They sound rather straightforward and not too impressive. However, I'm going to be doing it with burls and resin. This is a roughed out piece, and I've got to turn it into the shape and do the hollowing and put the mechanism in. This is a blood red epoxy color, and this is Birch Bird's Eye Burl. So when you're finished and using them, they're quite impressive. These are a few of the ones I poured in the molds. Unfortunately, they didn't work out as well as I would have liked. So I remade the molds. The original molds I made were only 3.5 inches deep, and the blanks were 3 inches. That left 1/2 inch so that when I put it into the vacuum chamber and the bubbles came out, they had room to dissipate. However, 1/2 inch wasn't enough. So I've made these 6 inches deep. Spark is, I think it must have been glued on here by nature. Holy mackerel, it is really hard to get off. Here are the pieces that I'm going to be putting into the molds. These two will create one set, and these 4 will create another set. One set, I'm going to do blood red and ocean blue. I'm going to put white ice in the ocean blue, and in both of them, I'll put some hyper shift. The other set, I'm going to do blood red and jungle green. I'll also be putting hyper shift in both of those. Hyper shift, in terms of automotive paint, is called interference paint. It's the product they put in the paint that allows the color to shift and change as the light reflects from different angles. Now I'm getting ready for the other two. Now both of these pieces of burl, I cut them in half lengthwise, and that's for the resin to go in and create a bit of a channel in there of resin. And I cut them on a jagged look with wavy pattern so that I don't get straight lines. I'll be interested to see how this turns out. Two have been in the pressure pot for about 20 minutes. The bubbles had come up right to the very top of the mold, so I had to shut down the vacuum pot, dissipate all the bubbles, and I've turned it back on. I'm anticipating another half hour, and there'll be no more bubbles. Then I can take these two pieces out. After 3 days on the workbench, the resin cured, and I had to take the molds apart to get the blanks out. I've got the blanks squared up on the bandsaw. I've also cut the corners off as well. That'll make it easier for shaping. And I've drilled a hole on each end in the center, and now I'm ready to put it between centers and start the shaping. Here are the two options that I'm considering. Here's the shape I'm interested in. This is what I'm going to be going for in this particular set. The entire body is 11 inches long, and I have to part it off at 3 inches. That'll give me a top part of 2.5 inches plus an extra 1/2 inch for a tendon that fits into the bottom part of the grinder. I also have to turn 4 tendons, 2 for the bottom and 2 for the top. These are allowing me to place the pieces into a chuck on the lathe so that I can drill holes that are parallel to the grinder. I'm now inserting the bottom part of the grinder into the chuck to hold it onto the lathe as I do some of the drilling for the body. This is a 1-inch carbide bit. It's carbide because this is burled wood, very hard, and epoxy, which is very hard and tough on high-speed steel. After I do the 1-inch pilot hole, I'll ream it out with the 1 16th inch steel bit, and that's the measurement that's needed for this particular mechanism. It's a 1/2 inch in depth, which is the depth of my Forstner bit. Once the holes are drilled, I'm truing up the bottom so that it sits nice and flat. I've switched now to the top, where I'm drilling the 1/4 inch hole through on both sides and making a tendon to fit into the bottom. Now it's time to join the two pieces together, put it on the lathe, and turn the body according to the shape that I want. I start off with the top, trying to make it as close as possible to the other piece that I have made already. This is a long process, and it requires a great deal of skill and trial and error. But once you take wood away, you can't put it back, so it does become a bit tricky. I then switch to the bottom part of the grinder and work on the shape that I want to get there. I first rough it out, then I use scrapers to get it more refined. This again is a long process, as I'm constantly feeling with my fingers the body of the grinder to make sure there are no bumps and there's a nice even curve. This requires a great deal of time and a lot of patience. Once I have the shape in place, I switch over to my sanding, and I sand from about 60 grit all the way to 1500. Once the sanding is completed, I then take some denatured alcohol to get rid of all the dust that's remaining on the surface from the sanding, and then I buff it with a buffing wheel and Triple E compound, which takes out the remaining scratches from the resin. The next step is to apply the finish, which is a 3-part finish made up of boiled linseed oil, pure tung oil, and polyurethane. That is applied liberally to the entire piece and allowed to soak into the wood grain. After a few minutes, I then wipe it off and let it dry overnight. Repeat the process as many times as needed to give a really hard, high-gloss finish. Now I've got something to say. I'm always looking for life's lessons within the complexity of wood turning. So here's a bit of wisdom from a 73-year-old elder related to this project. As one gets older and older, time appears to be flying by faster and faster. Days and weeks and months go flying by. Well, neuroscientists have studied this problem in a little bit more depth and have come up with a theory. They believe that if you do mundane things repetitiously over and over and over again, that gives the appearance for people that time is speeding by too quickly. Their solution is do a variety of very memorable activities that create just great experiences, and that will help to slow time down, to counteract the speeding up feeling of time going by. What's that got to do with the salt and pepper project? Well, salt and pepper is the most popular spice in the world, but an old saying says variety is the spice of life, not the salt and pepper. Well, this brings into play the theory from the neuroscientists. Variety. My message is push your limits. Do a variety of things. Don't just do the same old wood turning over and over again. Do projects that will really push your boundaries. And that's going to help to create a sense that time is slowing down. And I think that's a good thing. This project certainly had its challenges. The molds had to be redone to accommodate the air bubbles in the vacuum chamber. The tendons on the blank needed to be accurately turned. Top and bottom needed to run perfectly parallel on the lathe. The tendon on the top had to be loose enough to turn in the body without binding, but not too sloppy. The through holes needed to be very accurate. Both salt and pepper mills needed to have the same design and measurements. The polishing needed to take out all of the scratches on the resin. I made a total of 6 sets of salt and pepper grinders. 3 have been sold, and 3 sets remain for sale. They are pricey, but they're gorgeous. Please email me at grandpadennis9@gmail.com. That's grandpadennis, the number 9@gmail.com if you're interested. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my channel and share with friends and hit the like button. It will really help me. I'd also appreciate any comments on what you liked about the video and improvements that I can make. Till the next time, bye.
Grandpa Dennis is turning.
I'm alright, 'cause I'm okay. Doesn't matter if my beard is gray. Just listen, I have something to say.
Grandpa Dennis is turning.
I'm alright, 'cause I'm okay. And this old goat has something to say. So just keep learning, for Grandpa Dennis is turning.